Hello, good people. Welcome back to another blessed message with Lady Ni, also known as Minister. Hey, hey, hey. Ow, 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 ow. Ow. Welcome back. I'm so excited to be here. This weekend was really full, this past weekend. Okay, so we're Monday. We're here on Monday, bright and early. And we're just happy. I'm in a good space. So for me, I celebrated just life. You know, they said it was Juneteenth and all these things. And we had a major festival in my hometown, in my city. And one of the things that stood out was that although it wasn't necessarily highlighted as being such, this is what God told me. It's a theme. It was a homecoming celebration. You know, homecoming when you go back to where things begun. And that's essentially what it was about. So we were celebrating a milestone in our city. And we were bringing back people from the past, um, situations that happened from the past, media, you know, just people that were relevant from a time past, but they were all related to this city, and where we are. So it demonstrates also the fact that we've made progress along the way. So that is great. So I'm full. We had so many great experiences: the food, the laughter, the joy. And again, when you bring entire communities together, often you'll have those separate families and relationships and peers. But what I noticed was the unity. Music brings people together. You hear what I'm saying? And the way I observed is the fact that these songs from the past, everyone could relate to them. Everyone knew the lyrics, or at least the hook, you know, the chorus, because Lady Now will mess up a lyric real quick. However, during one performance, it was like we made our own choir. We were just singing in unison. We had people ad libbing. It was just great. It was just a great time overall. You know, every situation or celebration comes with something. Something somebody, you know, you gotta have something to talk about on the background. But overall, it was a great experience. So that was the highlight. And like I said, it was full, it was really busy. And as you saw, I was still able to come and bring forth the blessed message in between all of that. I'm still writing, I'm still doing everything that God has placed in my heart. So, this particular message is going to recap some subject matter as well as highlight some new concepts that God has given me. But again, just pay attention because it may not necessarily flow in the way that you would like. However, this is the message that God gave me. He gave me multiple messages in one. Let me say that. So again, it's going to be a lot. So I also had the opportunity to continue to listen to other messengers of the Lord. And a messenger reminded me that the oil will not run out. God will continue to communicate with you. He will continue to provide and protect. That's what the messenger inspired me to accept and believe, okay? Because sometimes we have doubts. And for me personally, I know that um, I had this, I guess it was a fear, not quite a fear, but just a thought like, what if God stops speaking to me? And what if there are no more blessed messages? Okay? I started thinking about that. And again, I was reminded that God will not forsake me. He will not leave me. He's here. It's permanent. It's only up from here. And it's up to us to accept those things that God places on our hearts. So it's up to us to walk away from God, but He's not going to walk away from us. That's what the messenger reminded me. Also, I got a scripture here. This is where my scripture comes into play. 2 Kings 4. 2 Kings chapter 4. Um, the wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revealed the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my two boys as his slaves." Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a small jar of olive oil." So let me tell you this. Over the weekend, I also had to take care of my home, okay, which means I had to do some grocery shopping and maintenance and all these things. So I went to the market and I was purchasing some oil. Well, that was my intention. So typically, I don't use vegetable oil. I don't use a lot of oil. I don't eat a lot of fried foods. Okay. However, for this particular dish that we're preparing, I needed some oil, and I was in the grocery store. I'm like, prices are expensive. I'm like, I'm gonna go over here to the dollar store. So I got some olive oil, and it's a really small bottle of olive oil. But I knew that I already had some at home, and I also ended up getting a bottle of vegetable oil as well to supplement. So I'm saying all that to say that again, these messages are full circle, and you don't know like how your life is actually resembling what God is trying to move you towards. And it's up to you to watch the signs. Watch for the signs, okay? So this was again the confirmation. So when I received the message, this was the confirmation that it's not going to run out. You're going to be okay, even though you might find yourself in a challenging situation, difficult time. You're going to be okay. It's okay. So in verse 3, Alicia said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour all the oil into all the jars." It really says, "Pour oil into all the jars as each is filled. Put it to one side." She left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." So again, God was able to fill up her jars in this instance. Uh huh. This is again, nothing is impossible with God. And remember, let me go to also, I'm going to insert this here. This wasn't on the agenda. But remember, we talked about the fact that Elisha was the protege. Uh huh. Yeah, he was the successor for Elijah. Yeah, Elijah was going to pass on, and then Elisha was going to accept the mantle in his place. So they had the same experience. So I wanted to also highlight this scripture, 1 Kings 17, starting at verse 7. Sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Again, sometimes you find yourself in these difficult situations, these trying situations where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get through it. I don't know how I'm going to get through it. Okay? That's the truth. You can't go over it, can't get under it. So you have to just depend on God. So I will say this, I'm going to insert this here. In my moment of just self reflection, as you know, that's the journey that God has me on. And I will say this, God told me that there's going to be a self reflection poetry book part two is going to come. But I just started praying to God, whatever was on my heart, whatever needed to be said, because that's where your help comes from. Nothing is impossible for God, although it may be difficult for man. We have to remember that. So this is encouragement because sometimes you feel like, I don't know what to do. Pray. That's it. So, in verse 8, we're still in 1 Kings 17. Then the word of the Lord came to him, "Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food." So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, "Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink?" See, for some people, it's not significant. But again, it's the jar, it's the jar, it's the jar. It will not run out. God promises abundance. It's going to overflow. Actually, that was the key terms that God reminded me of. It's going to be a heavenly abundance, endless supply, overflow. Those were the words I heard directly from God. So again, would you bring me a little jar, a little water in a jar so I may have a drink? As she was going to get it, he called, "And bring me, please, a piece of bread." "As surely as the Lord your God lives," she replied, "I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug." Ugh, that little bit of oil. You hear what I'm saying? So somebody right now, you have a little bit of dollars, a little bit of money. Okay, that's it. That's what you got. God says it's not going to run out. Do not worry. Do not fear. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for my son myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Again, notice the pattern here. These are two widows with sons. Okay, that's the thing, and they have the little bit left. And they don't know where their supply is going to come from. But again, what did God tell me? He said, heavenly abundance, endless supply, overflow. Those are the three terms that I've received. So Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. And then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of flour will not be used up. And the jar, and the jug, I should say, of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. She went away and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. Again, confirmation, affirmation, motivation, whatever shun you need right now. Okay? This is it. So I didn't know how this message was going to start out. I didn't know where it was going to go, but thank you, God. That's what you ski say. He say, I didn't know how that's going to work out. I didn't even. I honestly did not know. I had no intention on actually sharing this particular scripture. But again, Elisha and Elijah had similar experiences with those widows and their sons, and they were able to encourage, motivate, and inspire them. They also was to confirm. They were sent to confirm what God had already said. This is what prophets of the Lord are supposed to do. Confirm. Okay, that God is on your side. It's going to work out. And I had another confirmation. Um, it was just on time. It was on time. They said it's going to be okay. No need to worry. I was reminded. So thank you, God, for that. Um, so God told me to tell someone not to worry. You were dismissed, mistreated, rejected, mishandled. And in some cases, you were fired. God is about to flip the script on the entire situation. Yeah. So, again, I didn't know what direction this is going to go in, but I'm just going to keep on going. So, that's actually the ending, the conclusion. Let's go back to the beginning when I first started writing out what God was telling me. All right. There's multiple parts. So again, bear with Lady Ni. So as I continue to receive messages from the Lord that are not running out, they're overflowing. I gotta be quick with the pen at this point. Again, God told me that we're writing self-reflection part 2. And one of the pieces that God gave me is titled forfeiture. Forfeiture. To forfeit something is to give up your rights to that. Whatever it is, you give up your right to claim it as your own. Forfeiture is definitely the title of a piece that God is inspiring me to write. It's not finished, but this, again, keep in mind, somebody forfeited their rights to you. That was a message that was previously mentioned here and presented here. So, concerning this weekend, this full weekend, we know we celebrated Father's Day, right? Yes, just on Sunday, right? Father's Day. Oh, happy Father's Day. Any day could be Father's Day, really. If you're a father, just like any day is Mother's Day if you're a mother. That's the thing. Life is what you make it. I want to inspire somebody to know that. But God revealed some things concerning something. And here we go. There has been someone who has been pretending to be someone else. We talked on that. We touched on that a lot. God was telling me that it's people who are pretending to be someone else. They're not who they say they are for some odd reason. Now, there are multiple reasons why someone would impersonate someone else. Again, we talked about the fact that they may be dissatisfied with their own life. their own status, their own position, and they want to assume the identity and role of someone else. And one of the things that God gave me, and we're going to touch on that, just stay here, is that a part of those occult practices, yeah, that black magic, people believe that you can destiny swap and take over people's identity by just simply walking into the role and dressing up as that person. This is what they believe. If you take and use some type of instrument or symbols, I don't know, and you do some spell work, you can take over someone's identity. That's what they believe. So in some cases, these individuals have assumed the role or identity of someone else, thinking that if they just do it long enough, then it's just going to be them. That's it. They're going to transform and transition into this person. God said it don't work like that. But this is what they believe. And once you start to believe in something, it starts to manifest in the physical. However, there was a particular case where this person attempted to do this with someone, and I also mentioned before that they not only dress up and start to walk in the role, they have to push the other person out of that position in order for it to work successfully. So the plan backfired when the person did not give up their assignment. They didn't walk out of their life. Okay, so they expected this person to give up their life, basically, so that they could have it for themselves. But the person refused to do so and said, "You're not taking over my life." And they may not have said it verbally. However, they continue to be themselves. That's the thing. They continue to live their life and never gave up on who God intended them to be. And remember, God mentioned that I'm so proud of you because you continue to do those things which I have laid on your heart. You have not been discouraged despite all of the attacks sent your way, all of the, what do you call it, the hoodoo, voodoo. But you kept going despite that. But they banked on the fact that you would give up your life, give up your role, give up your position. And you haven't done that. So kudos to those persons who continue to pursue those things that they know God has said. And this could be in the form of a career, a business endeavor, just living you, being you. You also, God, I said this before, that you refuse to fake it. You refused to conform to the world. You stood 10 toes down and accepted your assignment from God. You remained faithful. So you continue to serve as the guiding light, the shining light in the world, even though it was something different. It was odd, it was peculiar, and people rejected you. What I just said, people mistreated you because you looked different and you didn't conform. You didn't do the things that they wanted you to do, they expected you to do. So you kept your life. Praise God. So again, someone is pretending to be someone else. Now, in the words of Pastor Gino Jennings, use a liar. Somebody say that. Use a liar. These pastors always tell you to turn to your neighbor and say this stuff. And it's always encouraging this. But what if you sit next to the devil or the demons? I'm just saying, use a liar. See, they don't like when ladies not like that. They don't want to hear the truth. But again, God said you have to be the light in this world that is confused, that accepts darkness, and rejects light. You have to set the standard. You have to set it straight. Set the world straight. So use a liar. Somebody needs to hear that right now. I think that everyone right now, from my therapeutic perspective, needs to take a pause and take in some deep breaths. Relax, because there's a lot going on. And some people have done some things. They practice these witchcraft and they in the cults and all this stuff. We saw these secret societies. Okay, look, you can be in a secret society, but why gotta be witchcraft? Like, why y'all can't be reading Bible scriptures? I don't know. But anyway, someone has been pretending. This is another part of this, and this is going to get deep, and this also relates to Father's Day. Someone has been pretending to have a relationship with someone that they don't actually have. Delulu. These people are crazy, delusional, off their rocker, okay? And I don't like to use slang terms when it comes to things of the mental or the emotion. I don't like using slang, but sometimes you got to break it down in layman's terms because apparently people, again, they believe this stuff so much that they have lost their way. And again, we're setting the record straight. So they're pretending to have a relationship with someone that they don't have. What do you mean, Lady Nas? So, for instance, someone has been pretending to be someone's spouse. How do you pretend to be someone's spouse? I don't know. But this is what they did. They told people, or let me be clear, because we talk about spiritual matters on the station, so stay with me. Everything does not have to be explicit, meaning that it's not necessarily stated matter of factly. So you have to use your spiritual ears and eyes to comprehend this concept or some of the concepts that are presented here. For instance, if you are in close proximity to someone, let's just say that, and you haven't clarified what your relationship with that person is, and someone says, "Hey, I met your wife or your girlfriend," and you're like, "Oh, mm-hmm," even though you're not related to that person, you don't even know that person, but you just accept it. Again, this is how they pretend to be someone else. They walk into the role and they think that if they dress up, assume the identity by being in close proximity to the person, that this is how they are able to capture it for themselves. Swipers no swiping. What did Dora say? But this is what they did. Or they were in a picture with someone and someone made the assumption, oh, because you might be dressed the same, had the same colors on, something like that. Oh, this is are you two? And they never really said no, but they allowed the assumption to go forward. This is what they did. Just by being in close proximity to this person. Delusional, okay? I can't make this stuff up. This is what God showed me. So, it also could have been a case if, oh, I got another one. So, for some people, you look according to your look, okay? I know we classify people according to their age or their style, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's reality or truth. So that's why it's important to fact check. So this person could look younger than they truly are. So if someone came up and said, and they're with a group of kids or with someone, let's just say they babysitting their cousin or something, and someone said, "Oh, your daughter is so cute," and they never correct the person. They never say, "Hey, this is not my daughter." But now the assumption is that that's their daughter. So people have ran with this and they never corrected the narrative. Can't make this stuff up. It could be in so many different type of relationships I'm receiving right now. You could be with somebody and it's a group of boys and they all look alike. And all of a sudden someone says, "Oh, these are your brothers? Oh, you guys all resemble. Wow, your parents must be proud." That could be your cousin. That could be your uncle. That could be someone else that you don't even know. But again, they walked into the role. So they're pretending and they went along with the lie. That's the thing. So whatever somebody assumed, they never corrected them. And they went along with it. That's the gist of it. Um, so in another case, God told me that an estranged spouse is pretending to still be with someone who has no communication with them. Absolutely none. Okay? They're still pretending that they're still in a relationship, that they're still together. This is what they have told people. This is how they have created a narrative around the fact that they're still with someone that they don't even communicate with. I mean, it's been years since they last saw one another. They haven't spoken to each other. And when I say years, I'm talking about like 5, 10 years, not like yesterday. It was like they haven't had any type of communication at all. Delusional, okay? And I know that I'm very playful, I'm laughing and stuff, but this is a really serious matter. It can be really serious, okay? Especially if someone is painting a picture that is not true to the public, getting people to buy in. So, for instance, if a estranged spouse is telling their family they're still with someone, and the family also is sharing this information with other people, it can get real complicated real quick, okay? And that's the problem. They have complicated a situation that is is unnecessary. Really, they created a sequence of events that were unnecessary based on a lie. Okay. So another one I received was parent-child relationship. This is where the Father's Day part comes into play. A father hasn't ever been a part of their biological child's life, but has told a different tale to everyone. Now, unfortunately, this is actually something that happens quite frequently in our society now, where we have adopted this term deadbeat father, deadbeat parent, because you can be a deadbeat mother as well, where you have biological children that you don't acknowledge, you don't support, you don't take care of, right? So a father has actually never been a part of their child's life. This is what I receive, like never. Okay, and I have some lived experience with this, unfortunately, but never, like never. They were never involved, but they painted a typical picture of the mom being the problem, but that isn't true. And we're gonna get into it, but if you're the estranged party, you're the party that has abandoned the family, you want to protect your image. Okay? You're not going to say, hey, I dumped them for someone else or I moved on and I left them. You're not going to tell people that. So they created this narrative that the mom was the problem. She keeping them away from the kid. You heard it all. Um, but what God was showing me is that they left. They abandoned their child on purpose with that intention. They never reached out. They never tried to build a relationship. Or the other case could have been that they were so abusive to mom that she had to protect herself and the child. And that happens quite frequently. I'm not going to be able to get into it right now, but there are people who are very abusive, and I mean mentally, emotionally, and in many cases physical. But it's not always physical. So if things are not physical, you can't see it. People just assume that you're making things up, you're exaggerating all these things, but you know what's going on. Remember, God showed me that. He told me, he confirmed, he said, you're not the problem. Just because people don't want to believe the truth doesn't mean it's not true. But in either case, in either scenario that was mentioned, the father has not been in the child's life. They told people they tried to communicate, but met resistance from the other parent. Uh huh. Another another way they tried to escape being held accountable was creating the scenario that they didn't know if they really were biologically related to the child. So they weren't sure. So they started questioning the paternity all of a sudden. Uh huh. And that's a complete lie. You's a liar. What you know, Jenna say? The kid is theirs, and there is no doubt. But they use this excuse to save face, so they won't be viewed as a deadbeat parent. But they are. They truly are a deadbeat, and that's the truth. They have never been involved, but want to convince people that the mother is wrong when all she does is take care of her child by herself. Now, you will find quite frequently through a society single moms, okay? You will. And some single fathers, okay? I don't want to be biased there, but if we really did the research and the data, you would see that there are far more single mothers than there are fathers. That's an assumption. So somebody do that research, okay? It's probably already published. So if I come up with a source, I'll post it here. But the thing is, when you're in that position, there are some who fight tooth and nail to have the father get involved and all these things. They fight and fuss, and it creates a lot of discord. It creates a lot of chaos and trauma. I will say that. So be careful with that. This is encouragement. If you find yourself in a place where you're a single parent and the other party is not voluntarily trying to participate, just be mindful of what you do and how you respond to that. Okay? And I would also say be honest with your child if they ask questions. And don't badger. What is the word? No, don't criticize the other parent. I saw some posts on Father's Day. Some were really funny because Father's Day they say that fathers don't get the same accolades or credit that mothers do. Like I don't know, but some stuff was just funny. Like this one person, they said, "Let's see your Father's Day gifts." And some of the Father's Day gifts were really like said, like y'all could have did better. Um, but there were also several people who were posting great posts about their fathers or father figures and all these things. So um, I say all that to say that I noticed that there was a mom who I know for a fact they're estranged from that parent, that father figure. And yet she still was able to post and say, hey, let's celebrate you as a father. You may not be a great husband, a great spouse, a great whatever, but you still are there for your kids. So be mindful of that. Also, it's been probably a month ago I saw this post that I was going to share on Father's Day, and it just came back to mind now. So if I find it, I'll share it. But it was a mom who shared a post concerning the fact that her child's father came to the house in the rain. He had to catch a bus or two or whatever, but he was soaked, he was drenched. He didn't have much money. He didn't have the things that he wanted to bring for his son's birthday, but he bought a truck. It was some kind of truck or something. And she was really celebrating him, saying that she knows he's having a hard time. In some kind of way, he was able to purchase this truck, but he felt like it wasn't enough. And yet she was celebrating him, saying, hey, you bought the thing that the son asked for. You came out in the rain. You're making an effort. That's the thing. So parenthood is not always doing everything right. you know, no matter what you get, these kids are grateful anyway. You hear what I'm saying? But the fact is that putting in the effort and doing the things that you know to be your best effort, putting your best foot forward, that's all you can do, essentially. And unfortunately, we will find ourselves in situations where we can't necessarily, or we didn't plan for it. Let's just say that, because you should know that things going to happen, but just do your best as a parent. That's what I would say. But um, the thing is about this particular single mom is she doesn't bother the deadbeat father at all. She doesn't even worry about him. That's the thing. While he's trying to paint this narrative that she's something wrong and all this stuff, and she's continued to move on, move forward, flourish. Her child is thriving and does not need chaos or confusion. That's the thing, and that's important in those situations to protect the mental and emotional health of the child. Okay, that's really important. Um, that's what I can say about that. Uh, if they want to lie and pretend to be something that they're not, it's not much you can do about that, but you can protect your child. And the thing is, I know that sometimes introducing the other parent could disrupt the child's life. Uh-huh. But in the case that I received, the parent hasn't even stopped or prevented the other party from being involved. She just doesn't chase after it. They are great how they are without them. So this is important. Some people think that you have to chase after the parent, and you can't make nobody do stuff. That's the thing. So she doesn't do that, but and his response is to say, "Oh, she's not allowing him, or she's preventing it," but it's all a lie. That's essentially what it is, and he doesn't genuinely care about the child anyway. He cares about how it makes him look to others, his image. People ask, "Where's the kid?" and he has no clear answers. Like if you had a baby years ago and nobody's seen a kid, you're since like what happened? So of course he had to make up lies and say, "Oh, I don't know if the child mind. She was unsure. She did this. Everything is on her, but the truth is the truth. Because he looks and feels stupid. That's the thing. He's inferior, especially when holidays such as Father's Day come around. That's the thing. So when everyone's celebrating with their kids, he don't have no kid to celebrate with because he's never had a relationship with this child. But he painted it out as if he did in some way, and it was so fraudulent. And he has no receipts, like none. He probably bought some diapers back when the baby was first born, and that's it. Like he has done nothing, or and let me be clear. I don't want to make it financial because it could be maybe he does pay child support or he supports financially, but he's not involved. Because some people have those arrangements where the father just sends money and that's it. but he's not involved. Like, he doesn't have a relationship. You know how somebody can actually call their father and say, hey, he doesn't have that type of relationship and never have. But yet he painted the picture as if he did, and that the other parent was serving as a hindrance, and that was never the truth. He's mad at the mother and not himself. And God said that's the wrong answer. It's displaced anger. Okay? So again, back to that whole word, forfeiture. He forfeited his he forfeited his existence. Like, the child doesn't even care. Like, I'm not gonna say they don't care because I don't know the emotional state, but they don't mention him. They don't really miss what they didn't have. You ever heard that concept? They can't miss what they never had. That's the thing. So God reminded me that someone got tricked out of your life. Okay, and we're moving on with the message. It's gonna flow. Ah, someone got tricked out of your life. So that, again, that concept reappears here. Forfeiture. That's the gist of everything that God was showing me recently. They were supposed to protect and look out for you. So again, this could be in the form of a father, a mother, a caregiver, a aunt, a uncle, somebody who was basically supposed to protect and look out for you. Remember, we talked about the fact that adults need care too. Okay? Adults need to know that they have trustworthy folks in their corner that they can rely on and, call for support, moral support, or that they can confide in. Because one of the things is that they were supposed to be that ear, that shoulder you can lean on. And they turn on you at one of the most vulnerable times of your life. They allowed the devil to use them against you. Remember, Lady and I will always tell you, if you can't protect someone or help them, at least leave them alone. But in this particular situation, they actually turned against this person. It wasn't just like, oh, we're no longer friends, I'm walking away from the friendship. No, they literally started to plot against them, and collude with other people against this person. Wrong answer again. Wrong. Like, all of these people have forfeited relationships. Fathers have forfeited relationships. Friends have forfeited relationships. Um, and again, this particular person was sent as an angel. They were supposed to be a helpmeet. They were supposed to be there to help guide you and look over you. And they became a fallen angel just like Satan. And it's very unfortunate that they forfeited this prestigious place in your life. Prestigious. That's what God gave me that word. What does that mean? Prestigious is like this elevated position, a high position. When God gives you authority, to slay demons, to trample serpents, that's prestigious. When God gives you insider information, and divine insight, spiritual insight, that's prestigious. And sometimes we take those things for granted. When He places you as a minister, a bishop, to oversee multiple churches, that's a prestigious position. And you shouldn't take it lightly, and you shouldn't take it for granted to the point where you shift what God has given you to cause harm, hurt to someone else. Like, there are people in these powerful positions that have misused them. They were supposed to set the standard, serve as the example. And somehow they became the devil in real time, in real life. Remember, the previous message that Lady and I shared here on Saturday was the fact that I have met the worst people on earth. Unfortunately, okay? I never knew they existed. I never knew about some of the occult practices and black magic. I never knew. I believe I met the devil himself, okay? And what did the scripture say? The devil disguises himself as an angel of light. He does. So again, they mishandled this prestigious position in someone's life. Now, again, we were talking about fathers. So let's just say, if you're a father, you're still sent to protect and look and care for a child, and you 360 degree, you try to harm injure, hurt that child. Mhm. That's the complete opposite of what you're supposed to do. Now, bear with me because we talk about stuff lightly sometimes. And recently we were talking about Isaac and Abraham. Okay. And we know that story. But that, I mean, I really don't want to dwell there. But I will say that just imagine turning it completely against your child and trying to take them out rather than care for them. Now, Isaac's situation was a little different. We know that. However, I use that as an example is because this is exactly what this person did. They did a complete opposite of what they were assigned to do by God, and that's the difference. Now, Abraham had a different assignment, but this person's assignment was to care for, take care of, look out for, protect, and they did the opposite. And they try to make it appear that you were the problem again, consistent messaging, but it was actually them. They became an agent of darkness. That was it. So they wanted to save face. They wanted to convince other people that it was you, not them. So they did egregious things behind the scenes. One of the things they showed me, God showed me, was that they attempted um, to show the child as being a certain way. Let's just say that. Remember we talked about disabling? That was one of the tactics of Satan, disabling the child. That's essentially what they attempted to do. And it's very dark. It's very horrid, horrific. They wanted to disable this child to say that this is reason why they don't have access. They wanted to make up so many different lies. They created so many different narratives to basically stop people from asking about the child. Okay, and yeah, they wanted to take the child out. That's what I received in my spirit. So this is also related to this. Sometimes the villain is someone you least expect. Sometimes it's someone you admire. And that's unfortunate because remember, if it's somebody that has been placed in your life to protect you and yet they're the one who is actually coming against you or turning against you, then you're never going to suspect or expect that it's your father or your mother. Like when Isaac was being led to the mountain, he never thought that he was going to be the lamb being slaughtered. That's the thing. It was in his mind to think, oh, they're talking about me. My father is taking me. He never thought that. Okay? And again, I don't want to take the commandment of God out of context here, but I just want to use that as an example. Just imagine you're walking with your dad and you're thinking, hey, we're going to go do what we always done, slaughter the lamb for dinner. But in his mind, he had no concept of the fact that his father was the culprit. He was going to be the one to harm him. Keep that in mind. So again, it's the villain. It's sometimes the person you least expect. And confirmation full circle, because it relates to another message where I shared that years ago someone told me out there in my business, it's going to be the person you least expect. Minister A. It's going to be the person you least expect. So God also told me the devil has ravaged through families and placed several individuals in compromising situations. Pay attention to the devices of Satan. I have spelled them out on the station. I know only one person probably gonna get it, right? God said be obedient anyway. Share the messages anyway. So doing my self-reflection, I'm like, okay, God, is what I'm doing being fruitful? Is it something that you want me to continue on? Remember, I started questioning whether or not the oil would run out. That's how we open the message. Confirmation. So a year ago, this young lady who also ministers on her particular station, she hosted an event. It was, I believe it was free and open to anyone. No one showed up. And yet, she said it wasn't about who showed up. It was about her being obedient to God. That was my confirmation. I had to be reminded that it's not about who responds, if they like you, how many followers you get, how many viewers. It's about being obedient to God. You're sharing the truth. When God elects you to your prestigious position, your goal in life is to continue to be the light. Shine a light on the truth. What is the truth? The truth is that Jesus Christ is Lord. Okay? You continue to share that information with the public, whether or not they receive it or they want to agree with it. That's a whole different story. But you have to stay obedient to your assignment. Remember, that couple that's coming together that God showed me, that's because they were obedient to their assignments separately. Remember, I told you about my hometown. They brought everyone back to the beginning, where they all started. These artists that are nationally acclaimed, have traveled the world. They started in the same hometown. So again, they worked on their assignment separately, but they're being brought back to the starting place. Somebody's going to catch it. Okay. So there are several people who are demonic who you would have never met if you could see back then what you see now. So, God said take the E out of emotion, so I do that. However, I'm still human. So I was reflecting on some of my own circumstances. Like, it's people I never would have spoken to. I never would have had a conversation with if I would have known what and who they were, spiritually speaking. So back then, I didn't have spiritual insight. I didn't know enough to make an informed decision. Therefore, I was basing things off of what felt good, again, emotions, rather than what was spiritually sound. Okay? Yeah, so I think I would have never talked to this. I would have never even gave them my number. I would have never spent any time with them. I would have never done that. But then God had to remind me about David and Bathsheba. Remember? See how these come and they connect? Without their union, Solomon would have never been birthed. Their tumultuous relationship led to the birth of Solomon, which was necessary. It was a divine plan of God. And I thank God for that. I thank God for that. Because sometimes you want to regret things that were God's on purpose for your life. Yeah, his own purposes. Remember, our mistakes often are God's own purposes. So we look at it and we're like, I should have never dated that person. Should never been with that. But God can use it for his glory. Again, when Joseph communicated with his brothers, he didn't say, why y'all do that to me? You should never did that to me. I don't like y'all now. He didn't say that. He said, what you meant for evil, God used it for good. That's what he said. So don't dwell on those people who have negatively impacted your life. In many cases, this is everybody. This is what God showed me. It's everybody. Everybody has stepped on somebody's toe before. So everyone has offended someone before. That's the thing. So don't dwell on the negative part, because you have to think about this. This is what God showed me. If everyone technically is an actor in your life and they're playing a role, it is what it is. And you have to know that some good has come from the situation. Something good has come from the situation, even if it's just your life. Because we just talked about those estranged relationships, divorce, and all those things. Sometimes it's just your children that comes from those encounters. And you have to move forward. Because again, this is good, because it relates to another message that God gave me, and I shared when I said that I don't care who my kid's father is at this point, because I love my children despite that. That's it. That's all. I love my children. So if you cannot value the other party that you was with, think about what's actually came from that relationship. And honestly, most times I think it's going to be your children. It could be some other things, but you have to be able to evaluate that for yourself, and also try to see the silver linings. The silver lining is it's that thing or those things that actually have contributed positively to your life. They have developed you in some way. So God also told me those who belong to cults and demonic groups and use you as a pawn will reap their reward in hell soon enough. The number of people who target others is shameful. And that's, again, a part of spiritual awakening. Yeah, it's spiritual awakening. And the message continues on. I'm going to keep going. So if it gets a bit lengthy, I would suggest that you pause it and come back. We say we're going to pause and take deep breaths. Practice our coping skills, okay? This is something you never heard. Well, you might hear, but you don't hear too many pastors and preachers telling you that to use your coping skills when you receive information and messages that may be hard to hear, hard to handle. But I'm going to be very diligent about encouraging coping skills and self management, emotional management, okay? Emotional intelligence, however you want to refer to it. Uh, but I will say, learning that there are several people who are a part of these cultish, or cults, whatever you call them, cultist organizations is appalling. Um, there are a number of people who worship the devil on purpose. It's again appalling. I wish that it wasn't true, but it is. You know, I don't wish too many things. I just pray to the Lord for guidance. Um, and there are some folk I would never have even spoken to if I had known. There are people again that I never imagined would be a part of something like this. Uh, so another benefit of having experiences and developing or learning life lessons is that you discover Jesus for yourself. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough because you have to go through all of the hardship to discover Jesus. However, that's the benefit. Yeah. Also, I wrote here that sometimes your choices and your selection cause so much damage, emotional and psychological damage and dysfunction, that you will never view your life the same or people the same. And this is true because remember I said that couple that was targeted separately, they have experienced some hard people. They were attacked by spirits, okay, that have, I don't want to say damaged because that's not the word, that have awakened them. It helped their process of awakening. That's the thing. So again, that's the benefit of going through those hardships. You learn something from it. And now you can easily identify spirits before you discover people. Because it's one thing to meet people and you're like, oh, they're nice and da 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 da. It's another to actually test those spirits and actually see what lies behind those spirits. And again, it will be really eye opening to know who these people truly are. And this is the thing. I had a grand revelation. God showed me a specific person, this individual, a public figure, you would never in a million years think. But then again, you might. And the thing, this is again why it's important to test the spirits. You have to look for the signs. The signs will be there. There will be people speaking up and telling you, watch out for that person. That person ain't good. There will be. I lie to you not. And there was a specific person. Originally, let me say this. I was going to name the person, but God said, don't do it. Wait. And there's a reason why we're waiting. But there was a person who spoke out on this person, and they became a target for negativity. Yes, God revealed and confirmed, like, what they were saying wasn't that far-fetched. So again, the signs will be there, but it will go against the grain. Okay? It will go against the grain. It will challenge people's comfort levels. So remember, God told me that some person, they are used to throwing around money and being at the parties and, you know, just being sociable and all these things. So that creates the emotion of joy and happiness and peace in people, even though it's an illusion. Okay? But because of that, they can't see past the emotion. They haven't taken the E out of emotion. Okay? So they can't disconnect the fact that this person has been good to them with the fact that this person also is cruel and wicked and mean spirited. That's the thing. They can't separate it. So this is the thing. Someone thought that it was a good idea to recreate the most traumatic moments in a family's history. Yes, that's what they did. So remember, I told you somebody wanted to do a play, a movie, something, a production. They thought it was a lively idea. They did all these theatrics. They got all these people involved, actors from all over the place. They spent money. They invested in this project. They did not ask permission. They did not gain permission from the person who it involved. And because of that, they were creating the most traumatic, cruel, wicked events in this person's life for everyone to see. They put it on public display while this person was going through it and experiencing these terrible experiences and emotions all over again, reliving the past. This is what they did. Again, occult practices. They had no regard for the fact that this is trauma. They're re-traumatizing this person. They're damaged. They're doing damage on purpose. But they say, oh, it's a movie. It's a play. It's for fun. This is the type of individual you're dealing with. And I know it's one thing for you to hear someone say, it's another for you to experience. So imagine going through the darkest moments of your life all over again. Or not even yours. You're experiencing someone else's darkest hidden moments of their life because someone decided that they're going to recreate it in you. And again, it's a family, so they recreated these moments with this person's offspring. So if your parent was impoverished, let's just say they experienced some sexual assaults, abuse, manipulation. This is what they put this other person through. I mean, let that sit with you. Somebody, it has to resonate with your spirit. I know I'm definitely on an elevated level when it comes to spirituality and empathy. As an empath, I feel emotion. So just imagine you going through something your mother, your father already went through. They already surpassed that. Actually, my book, go purchase the Girl Shepherd. It actually touches on that. Now, I know it's like 3 parts. Read the whole series, of course. But it touches on the fact that you're going through the same experiences that your parent already overcame. But someone thought it was a great idea to do this to you. Also, they were, again, remember I mentioned that they used pictures, they were recreating the pictures and if it was video, you know. But again, what I'm reminded of is that we had a different level of technology back in the day, so they couldn't necessarily have every detail, but whatever information they collected, they did. If they had interviews with family or family insight, they used this to create this in other people in the family. Those people are going to hell. That's what God told me. Okay? They will reap what they sow soon enough. And this ain't nothing like possibility. This is the truth. Okay? The producer, director, orchestrators, executives, etc. will answer for everything they put someone through again. And again, I want to mention again, because this actually happened already. They were recreating in their limited minds. It's absurd. The worst thing you can do to someone that is a trauma survivor is to put them through the same thing again. Hello, somebody? That's the worst thing you can do to somebody. They already went through it, and you will put them through it again on purpose. Without their permission, without their consent. God also told me again, it was the exes. So if you go watch the last few blessed messages, you'll see how all of this relate. The exes were mad at a particular person. They targeted other people within this bloodline. Yep. So some kind of way they connected with, people who know somebody who knows somebody. And I see specific people who have their day before God. God is showing me like specific people. Again, he told me not to necessarily mention the specific names, but I know they will have their day before God. Some people who have been impacted had absolutely nothing to do with any of it. And again, this is innocent children. These were innocent parties just because they were a part of the family. They were born into the family, essentially. Because remember, uh, the previous message, God told me, He was like, well, people would have questions. And the question would be, well, how I got involved in this? What I have to do with this? And it's just simply because this is your family. Yep. So innocent children were robbed of their right to experience their own circumstances and not be forced into reliving the trauma of someone else. So they put the children in a forced circumstance. It was like they put them in an experiment. They placed them in a, what do you call them, little boxes where you do the experiment and watch what happens to them. That's what they did. What a horrible idea. Shame on you. You are the worst type of person to walk earth. Just because you had bad experiences doesn't give you the right to force people to relive your experiences. You don't get that right. And another thing God showed me is that this person suffers with trauma. They are, remember, He shows me things in pieces, but then I can put it all together and I see how they relate. He was showing me that there's someone who's internally damaged. They lack empathy. They lack a heart. Like they are damn like remember when God was telling me that what he was saying there's four people who are going to gain something from insight that is being shared now. And the fourth person was the lost cause. They're not necessarily going to gain anything. They're not going to change because they have those narcissistic tendencies. They are a psychopath. Okay? And a psychopath, I wrote it here, they don't care who they hurt, who they mistreat. Their heart is cold. It turned cold long ago. Yeah, that's what God said. So psychopaths, they have the ability to turn off emotions and separate themselves from reality some kind of way. So mentally, they might be smart, but emotionally, they have a deficit that cannot be filled. It's a void that's not there. It's just not there. Not capable of experiencing true emotion. So they felt like, okay, let me try to put you through this. I went through it. You can let me put you through it. This in their mind. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just have a heart. I just have like just basic morals and principles. I just have basic like good nature. Like it's nothing spectacular. It's just basic human dignity. Stuff that I would never think to do. I would never sit there and say, oh, I have experienced this worst abuse in my life and I'm gonna put you through it. What kind of sadistic thing is that? And that's another thing. Sadistic. That was a word that God gave me. Satanism. That's what they practice for some odd reason. And they get pleasure out of the pain of others. You don't get the right. That's what God told me. You don't get the right to play God in other people's lives. Those children and young people you affected were innocent. May they exist in your subconscious mind all the days of your life. May they stick in your mind forever. And this is the thing. A lot of times people do wicked things on purpose, and then all of a sudden, they want to forget, they want to block it out, they want to act like it never happened. May that be the movie that replays in your mind every single day of your life. Because the thing is, one thing you can never get back is time on earth. You rob people of precious years of their life and stuck them with traumatic memories. Now, I will say that there was a party, we already talked about it, a party who didn't know what was going on. They weren't clear about the severity of the situation. So they trusted certain people. They entrusted certain people with the care of themselves, their children. They entrusted these people, thinking that these people were like normal, like regular people. Like these people had regular intentions. Like they didn't think that these people were Satanists, or devils, demons. They didn't. Again, this was a foreign concept to them. So to actually realize what actually was happening, they are shocked. Okay. And the thing is, some of these innocent people, they're not aware that they were robbed. They don't know that this was orchestrated by a higher person. They assume that, again, they're pointing the fingers at the wrong parties. They assume that, for instance, if your mother and father are your caregivers, they're assuming like, well, it's your fault. But they don't know that their mother may not have known what was going on, had no awareness of what was going on, didn't have the clear understanding. Because you only can go off of information that you have. They never had a clue that anything was off or that their family members were demon worshippers. Okay? So these people again, they don't even know they were robbed. They think that their life was just, this is how my life was supposed to go. But essentially God was showing me that no, somebody came in and twisted it all up. They came in life and threw the dice and let it lay where it lied. Okay? They treated their life like a game on a game board, and you just shake the dice up and let's see how it's gonna go. So they don't know why they were displaced. That's another thing. So they were supposed to go a certain way, or they were headed to a certain direction, but because of these people playing God in their life, they interfered to kind of mess up their life. Essentially, they wanted to mess them up. That's what it was. And the person doesn't understand, but I do, and God wants me to speak on their behalves. They were displaced and moved around because some cowards thought it would be a good idea to hurt someone entrusted with their care. Because they orchestrated a revenge plot against a caretaker, their lives were uprooted and dismantled for a season. That's what God told me. So another thing is, if you seek a revenge plot or you enact a revenge plot on a caretaker, this could be a parent, aunt, uncle, distant relative, somebody who's entrusted with the care of children. Let's just say a mother, and she has little kids, and she's supposed to take care of them. But somebody is so angry and upset and malicious that they decide, I'm gonna get revenge on this mother. They had no regard for the kids. They don't care if she a mother. They don't care that she doing her best in life. They didn't care. They said, I'm gonna get revenge on her. But it affected everyone connected to her, everyone associated with her. And that's why, again, they gonna reap what they sow. Because the people that were associated, they suffered because of heartless individuals who are incapable of love. God told me that. I told you. They don't have the capacity to truly love and see things from a righteous perspective. They only do things because this is what they feel. They act out of emotion rather than clear conscience. Yeah. They not thinking like, okay, if I hurt her, then I'm gonna hurt all the kids involved and I might hurt other people. They don't have nothing to do with it. Like, they didn't think like that. Not only that, they also didn't consider the fact that this was someone that was protected by God and that God actually loved and cared about. So when you touch God's prophet, they didn't think about the ramifications of that. And that's unfortunate for them. That's really unfortunate, okay? It's so many examples of what happened to people who touch God's prophets. Okay, but I'm gonna say that for another video. But yeah, it's so many. You gotta read your whole Bible. The Bible tell you everything you need to know. I'm telling you the truth. They didn't realize that. Okay, by you interfering with this person, God was going to come back, and everything was gonna come back on you. And anyway, let me continue with the message. They can't love because they never experienced love. They only know how to manipulate, cheat, and control scenarios. That was another thing God showed me where we talked about in a previous message where this person didn't receive love, so they couldn't give love. So that's why they were acting out. And they might have mental challenges. They might have been abused and neglected throughout their childhood. So they don't really know how to express clear love. They may have lost their parents at an early age. Therefore, they don't care if anyone else has parents. You know, this is the type of person we're dealing with. And they are great at acting. That's another thing. Their entire life is dependent on playing someone else. They lack a self-concept. Full circle message. Remember, Minister A encouraged you to teach your children proper habits, appropriate emotional intelligence, how to handle and manage themselves. This person lacks a self-concept, so they're comfortable playing other roles, being, being, what is it, malleable? Yeah, so that they can fit into whatever they need to fit in. You want me to be a woman? Okay. Want me to be a man? Okay. That's the type of person they are. I'm telling you, this stuff is heavy. You want me to play a little baby? They'll do whatever. They don't even know who they are. They are accustomed to dressing up and pretending to be someone else. Again, I'm gonna skip the name part. I try to see good in this person, but they need help. They need help that the world cannot offer. Okay, and that's the truth. Um, there are some people they can be very, what is it, charismatic, smart, funny, life of the party, but they lack love, and that's the most important gift from God that we can extend to others. That's the commandment. Greatest thing we can do is love, and they don't have it. So they decided to subject their terrible upbringing to someone else. And it's sad. No child should relive your experiences because they are a narcissist or a psychopath and they don't care who they hurt. God told me that the lengths taken to destroy families is reprehensible because they didn't have a family and they were isolated and all these things that they attempted to destroy someone's family that was really close knit at one point, really loving, really committed, but they came up and they ravaged through the family. That's the thing. They they did this, and it was horrible. And the thing is, there are people right now thinking it was someone else who did it. But I know the truth. So right now, again, we talk about scapegoats. There's people blaming, the family is pointing fingers at everybody else except the true culprit. Now remember, God told me that there's someone at the top. There are all these mini scapegoats, but it's someone at the top that orchestrated the whole thing. But people can't see it. So there are people right now hurting and separated from people who actually love them because someone interfered. There are people who are angry with the people who would have loved, protected them, took care of them no matter what because of this person. God said it was someone you release expect and also someone with an important public image. It's actually more than one, but I know exactly who they are. So it's unfortunate that people like this exist and no one can distinguish the person from the spirit. Disappointed and ashamed are the words that come to mind. And this person will visit their father in hell soon enough. That's what God told me. Uh, and continuing on, the people who are silent need me to speak up right now. So again, I was questioning. God, is this what you want me to do? Is this the path that you really want me to remain on? And he said, they need you to speak up because they fought tremendous battles. And their voices were silenced. Their spirits were broken. Yeah. So they've been fighting, but they don't have the same capacity. They don't have the same level of insight that you have. They live with trauma and pain. Everything that made them who they were has now been confiscated. And they want to feel love, but they know they are really hated. Not because of what they did, but simply because they were born. And again, this could relate to being born in the wrong skin, the wrong body, according to popular culture. Yeah. Yep. They never got to notice that the world is cruel and will never accept them if they don't fit in. So God was telling me that you can be everything you wish to be as long as it aligns with the description they designed for you. You can't step out of that box. This is how that person feels. That they have to stay within boundaries that were created externally by the world. That's the thing. That's what they feel. So they feel entrapped. So I didn't know what I was supposed to say back then, but I know what I need to say right now. God has been preparing me my entire life to defend the helpless and the weak. He was showing me what I was sent to the earth to accomplish, confirmation. So again, when I was questioning my prayer, when I say the prayer came, it wasn't me at all because I didn't know what I was going to say. But the prayer was to eliminate those barriers, to evict the enemy, to let the enemy aware, make them aware, alert them that we're here to stay. There's no place in our lives. So again, this is what God was showing me. I'm sent to speak up for the helpless, the weak, the innocent. Don't hurt an innocent child. Stop peeing on people's legs if you know you're bad. Then just be bad. The sugar-coated version of demons will not hold up in court this season. We are exposing the truth. That's what I'm led to say right now. Yeah. So for so long, this person got away with their habits, their deeds, their acts because they were able to smile and, dish out some money, have a few parties. Yeah, give out some awards. But again, the sugar-coated version of demons will not hold up in court this season. That's what God said. You don't get the right to hurt people. You don't get the right to pee on people's legs and act like it was raining. What does that mean? That means give a false impression. You don't get that right. If you're a bad person, you're just a bad person. But you don't get the right to pretend any longer. You don't get that right. That's what God said. Because you went and call yourself destroying. So you forfeited your right to anything that God has for the people of God. You forfeited that right. You forfeited that claim. That's what God said. You have to speak up, Lady Ni. I don't care if you get one streamer per video. Then you speak to that one person and let God do the rest. That's what God told me. So, Satan, you're evicted. No, you no longer belong in our lives. You're not going to get away with it. The truth has already been revealed. You have already been exposed for the fraud, the fake, phony that you are. That's a message to the kingdom of darkness. Okay? So I think I've said enough for this particular video. But you know what I'm going to say? Y'all continue to read your scripture. Continue to sit pretty and walk happy. I'll talk to you real soon. Take care.